Okay, so I'm going to do a quick tutorial on my workflow, which is modeling in Sketchup, importing into Blender to add a collider, and then exporting into the SDK. So we're going to start by opening up Sketchup. And then I choose meters just because Decentraland is set in meters. And I'm pretty sure SketchUp is still free. You might need to get a paid version to export as an OBJ or a DAE, but those are the two file types that you want to export as. I prefer OBJ file. I think it's a little cleaner and there's less bugs, but DAE works as well. Whoops. Okay, so we're just going to create a simple piece of geometry. So here's a box. Let's see, and then we'll create a sort of void within this box. So this is simple. You can obviously create whatever you want, but the important thing, I like to group everything into one group. Um, it doesn't export. You have to mess around with the exporting of different groups into Blender, but generally it's a good idea to divide groups up by what you want to have colliders. So when you import into Blender, you can have everything nicely compartmentalized. It might make more sense later. Another good thing to check is to make sure that all your faces are the same way. So if you have a face that is backwards, like this will turn up as blue, you want to make sure they're all facing the same way. So we can reverse that one, and then if you click this and do orient faces, it should turn them all the same way. And one way to check this is if you go to view face style and change it to monochrome. If any of them are backwards, they'll appear as like blue, I guess. Okay, so this is your model. The next step is to get it out of SketchUp. So you're going to do File, Export, Export 3D Model, and then you're going to choose OBJ file, or DAE is another option. I prefer OBJ, like I said. And then you can just call this something like massing. So that exports, it gives you kind of a report of everything that you're using, one material, 10 faces, one group. Yeah. Okay. The next thing we're going to want to do is bring it into Blender and add a collider. So open up Blender, which is free. I delete all that stuff because it's not needed. Rip the default cube. But you're going to do File, Import Wavefront, which is a .obj file right here. And then you're just going to browse to where you saved that SketchUp export. So here it is on my desktop, massing. There's also a material file, which I think automatically links in, but import that. And there we have our massing right here. So if you look over here, this is that group that we created. So if I had multiple groups, I believe they would show up as multiple, I guess, layers. They're more like objects than layers. But if you want to combine all of your objects, this is all grouped as one. But if, say, there were multiple things that I wanted to put all into one object, what you would do is you'd select everything, and then you would let's see. I think you'd right click, and then if there was more than one object, there would be a join option. So actually, let's go back. I can show you. Import. So we have two different objects. We got the cube and we have the massing. So if you select them all, you can right click and you can do join, and then they'll join into one mass. I don't really want to do that, but that's just how you uh, would join geometry together. So if I export this as a GLB right now and bring it into the SDK or the builder, it won't have a collider, which means your avatar will walk straight through it. So that's the most important thing that you need to be doing in Blender. It's either doing animations, editing materials, but mainly you need to be adding a collider layer. And the way you do that is you just select the object over here on the right. You right click it, and there's a option that says duplicate objects, or Shift D. So you just click that and then enter. And then if you look over here, you have two layers now. You have massing, and then you have the massing duplicate. That duplicate you want to rename as massing underscore collider. Um, then your file's pretty much ready to go. So next step, go to File, Export, GLTF, or GLB slash GLTF. And then you're going to save this, um, wherever you want, but ideally you'd be saving this to a project folder for the SDK, or you just save it somewhere where you can import it into the builder. And then I'll kind of show both. So right now I'm just going to save it to my desktop. So I'll just call it massing.glb, export GLTF. Um, all right, let's see if we can get this object into the builder. Okay, so I'm just going to open up one of these scenes. That's too big. I'm going to open up this test scene I have right here, open an editor. I don't really use the builder. The SDK gives you a lot more freedom, but I realize that some people like to use it, so I'm going to just show this. So if you want to add that object that we just created, I think you do asset pack, and then it says create asset pack. Start by adding some assets. Drag your asset files here, GLB, GLTF, zip format. So we're going to browse to that GLB file we just created on the desktop, massing right here. That's what it looks like as a preview. Open, then import. And you can change the name, choose whatever category it goes into. Let's do structures. And then, yeah, and create asset pack. Okay, so now here's the new asset pack. There's our object. And then if I publish this, because we have the collider later, you should be able to jump on top of it, etc. Now, if you're using the SDK, it's pretty straightforward. But let's just create a new project folder here called massing. And then using the command line, we're going to go to that directory. And then we're going to create a Decentraland scene within it. So we'll do DCL init, which populates the directory with all the files you need to start an SDK scene. And we're just going to choose scene, and we'll choose cube spawner, which is the default. So that's going to take a moment to kind of install everything. But once that's finished, we're going to take this GLB file that we made right here, and we're going to copy it into this massing directory that we just created. So I'm going to create a new folder called models, and I'm going to place that GLB file into that folder. So now I can reference this in the game.ts folder. Okay, so we're inside our folder. Now we want to edit the game.ts folder file to show that object right here. So let's just get rid of all this right here. And then I'm going to pull some code. Quickly. Just I'm going to recycle from another project. Let's see. I'm just going to take this little piece of code here. I'm lazy and I don't want to rewrite it all. Yeah, actually, that would have been fine. But whatever. Okay, so I'm just going to take this piece of code. We'll just change the variable names just so it's change. So we're creating a new entity essentially on the first line. Let massing equal new entity. Then your the second line, you are telling the entity where to draw the object from. So it's saying follow this path. The path is in the models folder. In the file is called massing.glb. So that's that folder we just created. And then so just change these variable names. And then this final piece right here is just telling you the transform component, like what the position of this should be. We're going to say 0, 0, 0, 0. What the scale is, we're going to say the scale is 1 all the way across. And then the rotation, I think we want it to be 180 here. Then finally, we need to do we need to add this to engine. Let's see. Sorry, I haven't messed around with this in a while. So you're going to do engine, add entity, and then the name of this entity, I guess, which is massing. So this should work unless I did something stupidly and obviously wrong. We're going to save these edits that we made. And then we're going to go down here to the command line. And we are inside that massing directory we created. We'll do DCL start. And this should run the preview of the SDK. Oh, okay, so we have an error here. I forgot to update this right here. So instead of master path, it should say massing path. And we're just going to exit this. We're going to resave this and then rerun DCL start to run the preview. And usually it just takes a few seconds for this to go, but let's see. We had no errors, so it should run no problem. We might have to tweak the rotation or the scale slightly, but well, let's just see. All right, so here is our massing that we created, and it looks like it has a collider. So you can't walk through it. And if you'd like to edit its position, you can just mess around with these positions, scales, and rotations. So we can change that. Then do Control S, and this should update. And it moved. And then say we want the scale to be smaller, so we can jump on top of it. Change that to 0.5. There you go. That's how to create a collider object from SketchUp to Blender to SDK. Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching.